back, Classic City Locks. We had a brief absence there, but we are back in the booth. Mike and I are both traveling for the holidays, a bit sick at the last week too, so we were unable to get a show out to you. We apologize, but we were also in attendance of two classic games, Louisville and Kentucky for me, and Georgia Tech for Mike.
Yeah, we're happy to be back in the saddle for y'all this week. Apologies, we couldn't get it done on the road, but we are back for a what I'm going to go ahead and call the first round of the playoffs. This
Yeah,
conference championship Saturday is going to be electric. So Wes and I, there aren't as many games this week, but we're going to kind of go through the Power Five championships, give you guys a little breakdown what we think is going to happen, a little insight, maybe give a couple leans to what we're thinking, and Wes and I are going to go through our playoffs and what we think could be the craziest potential playoffs. So how about we
yeah.
hop right into this?
But well, before we get into it, I think the most boring possible situation that would negate all of this talk that we're about to do is if all the favorites win on Saturday. You have Georgia win, you have Michigan obviously win, you have Oregon win, and you have
Florida
Florida
State.
State win. And then it's just like, oh, it's been the same four teams that we had all season. But
Yeah.
we're going to assume that's not the case as we go through these here. So, Mike, who do you like in Oregon v. Washington Friday night, the last Pac-12 championship game ever?
I know, and it's gonna be one of the best ones. I would just like to say a quick thank you to the Pac-12. I feel like they get made fun of a lot for beating each other up and blowing playoff chances, but here we are. We're gonna get a Pac-12 between the team in the playoff, I think, and it's gonna be a instant classic.
Yeah,
Oregon versus
moment of
Washington.
silence for the Pac-12
Yeah,
conference, really quick.
exactly. But who
And
do I
we're back.
Oregon versus Washington. We saw this game early in the season. Washington eked out a win and an instant classic. I think that home field had a lot to do with it, and I think these teams have been on very different trajectories. Oregon blowing teams out left and right. Washington fighting to survive every week, winning by 7-2 points. I'm going to take Oregon to win here, but that line's pretty big. I think we're going to see a Michael Penix Bo Nix duel for the ages. They both are very good quarterbacks. So I'm going to take Oregon to win here, but don't be surprised if Washington covers here.
Yeah, I'm the same way here. Not much more to say on this one. I feel like this everybody thinks it's going to get so far out of hand that Washington's going to kind of play with a chip on their shoulder, and it ends up being like a 3-point game. Oregon wins, Washington covers.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll move on to our next most contentious game. Alabama versus Georgia in Atlanta, SEC championship, the battle of the SEC Titans.
Yep.
And man, Mike's really mad at me for this one, but I
Not
love
happy.
Bama money line in this one. I took it when it was Bama at 6.5. I got like plus 180 odds on it. I am a pessimistic Georgia fan, so they go through so much pain every year. It's hard to just back them. But I think this is not as good of a team as they had last year, but I think it's a better team than people give them credit for. But Alabama just always seems to have their number.
Wes's emotional hedge has done nothing to deter my belief that the Bulldogs will come out on top in Atlanta. This is going to be a very good game. Clash of the Titans. I think that when you look into the stats, I'm not going to try and get too nerdy, but in terms of yards allowed, points allowed, comparable on defense. Um, Differences on offense. Bama's going to have to lean on that run offense, starting running back out, and they're going to need Milrow to be electric, which he has come a long way this season. Granted, I agree with that. He's going to have to be the one to win them that game, I think. If he goes off and he's just
Oh,
hitting downfield passes all day, then I think Bama has a shot. But everyone's talking about Milrow. Carson Beck has been a stud all season. And we have seen him play from behind and in stressful situations all year. So while these teams have comparable defenses, I think that UGA's offense through the air is going to be the thing that wins this game for them. I think Carson Beck is ready for this moment. We've seen it all year from him. Georgia Tech was his worst game, and we were, didn't have majority of the offensive weapons that he's been throwing to all year. So I'm going to take Georgia here. The Dogs are going to win, and they're going to get into the playoffs at number one.
yeah, check the injury report on this one. I assume Bowers and
Yeah,
McConkey will play, which will be dangerous. But oh man, Alabama undefeated in Mercedes-Benz Stadium
that is
also.
kind of crazy.
So
But it should be a very good game.
yeah, I agree. So we'll move on.
Yeah, moving on, not as exciting, but should still be a decent game. We have Texas versus Oklahoma State. I don't know about you, Wes. We didn't talk about this, but I wanted to see the Oklahoma rematch.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think a lot of people besides Texas fans did,
yeah, yeah.
everybody wanted to.
So Texas is favored by around 15 and a half. It's a big line. I honestly am torn on this one because Oklahoma State has done nothing but burn me all year. I think I took them when they lost to South Alabama. Um, I
Yeah.
Texas is a good team. I think they're going to get the dub here, and I could see them running away with this.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm in the same boat. I think Texas probably covers this one. Man, who would have thought? Hats off to the Cowboys just being there. So Cowboy hat, do a little whatever.
Yeah,
Good for them, but no chance of winning this one in my
no,
eyes.
not at all, not at all.
We'll move on to a last contentious game before of the two left. We have Louisville plus 1.5 against Florida State. Florida State without their starting quarterback, in case you've been sleeping under a rock lately. Uh, Florida State in the playoff, in my opinion, if they win here. I don't know how you keep
Absolutely.
them out undefeated. But wow, I really think the public is favoring Louisville in this one. We've seen the line move. I think Florida State just comes out and covers and kind of shocks the world. Even with the backup quarterback, they get it done. I think Louisville is a great team. I predicted that they might be in this ACC championship game, but I don't know. I think their good stories coming to an end here.
Wes, the Louisville Whisperer has spelled their doom. So I think that it's over for them as well. The thing with Florida State is people putting so much weight on Travis being out, but you need a whole team to get this far because if you just needed a quarterback, LSU would be undefeated, but they're not. They
Yeah,
have 3 losses and they have a
exactly.
Heisman contender, elite quarterback. So this Florida State team has earned this spot. They deserve to be in the playoffs if they win. They will be a travesty if for some reason they're left out if they win. Um, but yeah, I'm with you here. The line has shifted, but I'm going to stick with Florida State here. We saw them get a gritty, scary win in the swamp last
Yeah.
week. So this team is tested. They have good wins. I think they're going to get a dub here and get into the playoffs as well.
Yeah. And so we move on to Michigan, like 21, 22
Yes.
and a half point favorites against Iowa here. Not a whole lot to say about this one. I don't think anybody's going to talk too much in depth on it. Um, Hawkeye's reinventing the way college football is played. They have a point spread out there of 0.5 in the first and second half. So if you think that they will score a point in one of the halves, you can go and bet on that. That's just wild to me that that's even a thing.
But yeah, the Big Ten. We got this note here. Thank God the divisions are going to be gone next year because it's just a nightmare. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so wildly lopsided and just I can't watch Iowa play football. It's the most mind numbing, awful thing ever.
Yeah.
So tune back in next week when everybody wins except for Michigan and Iowa shocks and is
The
crowned the
odds
Big
of
Ten
that. Yeah,
champion.
do a 5-team parlay, everybody but Michigan.
Yeah. But
Uh,
no, I think Michigan will win this. We'll see. I want to know what the over under is as we get closer to game time. But yeah, I don't have a ton to say about this.
I think it's
Michigan has
34.
proved themselves to be a good team with that win against Ohio State. Iowa sucks. They just have an easy division. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna stick with Michigan there.
Well, don't be downtrodden in a week like this, though, where there's only so many games and the point spreads are not just endless for you to bet on, because we have a great teaser bet here for you,
Yes.
where you pick three teams, you get to move the line 10 points. And I've cooked up something pretty good here. I think Mike kind of likes it. I'm
Yeah.
taking Alabama plus 15 and a half, Texas minus 5.5, and Michigan minus 11 and a half. Excuse me. This is basically, if you don't understand, you get to move each game's line 10 points, but all of them have to happen. And you get paid out at like minus 120 odds. This is what I'm going to be looking at this week. So
And
I
where were you seeing this, Wes?
you can do it on, most bookies. I'm pretty sure most betting sites, will let you do this. It'll be under like Parlay Builder kind of thing or
Yeah.
teaser bets. So yeah, go
Yeah.
out and get those if you can.
It seems like a solid one to me. I like this a lot. I had never heard of this, but it seems like a cool thing to do. Definitely.
Cool little trick. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So our playoffs. What we're gonna go through here, we're gonna have a playoff prediction really quick, and then we're gonna give you our combined craziest but most still a little realistic playoff perspective. Mike, start us off with yours here.
Yeah, so you got a little preview with what Wes and I said during the previous segment, but for me, number one, I'm going to take Georgia getting in. I think they're going to beat the Tide, and they've earned the spot. It's a tested team, great coaching. And it's not taking away from Alabama. This is going to be a very, very difficult game for them, but I think that Georgia's going to win, and you got to keep them at one. Wes, who do you got at one?
I got Michigan at one. I in this one I'm gonna have Georgia, assuming they lose. Michigan gonna get the win here, and they're the clear favorite, after Georgia. So they're my number one. Number two, though, is exciting. I'm going with Oregon, the Ducks. I have, I think that Washington's gonna lose to Oregon. They're not gonna be in. I think Florida State, you know, I want them to win I don't want them to win, but I think they'll win. But realistically, I'm going to leave them out just because I think I like that this situation could happen. And I'm going to take Oregon and not Florida State as a sneaker. Who's your number two?
I'm going to take Michigan here too. I mean, the wins over Penn State and Ohio State are strong. They had a weak schedule, yes, but I think you can make a similar argument against Georgia. You got to take them at two there. Yeah, I don't have a ton about to say. I think that your playoff prediction is a lot more exciting than mine is.
Well, I don't know about exciting. These ones are supposed to be realistic, but I'm going to take Texas at number three. I have Washington. Huh?
I don't know about that. Go ahead.
I like, I don't understand how you keep Texas out, even if, I mean, if Washington and Florida State both win, Texas not making the playoff is such a travesty. They have that one tiny slip up against Oklahoma, but they've also probably have some of the best wins, I want to say. So I'm optimistic for their chances for this playoff. So I'm going to put them at number three for me.
All right. For me, I'm going to take Oregon at three. If I'm doing power ratings here, I'm putting Oregon at two, but I don't think you can put them at two with a regular season loss. Yeah, I just think that this team, we said it earlier, not trying to beat a dead horse, they have proven themselves as the season progressed that they are very legit on both sides of the ball. They score all day. They got a Heisman quarterback, Heisman contender who I think at this point will probably win it. Yeah, I think that they're just better than FSU, who, spoiler, it's going to be my number four.
Yeah, I like the FSU pick there. Not bad. I took Alabama as my fourth. Yeah. If they beat Georgia, they're in. And I think that's still realistic.
Okay.
So what's our craziest but realistic?
Hold on, Wes. Before we move, like I said, I feel like your playoff is a little more interesting than mine. How do you, as a committee member, justify leaving a undefeated ACC champion out of the playoff with three?
No, that's assuming that Florida State loses.
Huh?
Yeah, if Florida State wins, they're in. But Louisville game could go either way.
So in your playoff prediction, if they lose, okay, I see.
Yeah. So I'm not banking on Florida State winning. That's why I'm going to not take them.
Understood. All right.
Our realistic playoff ranking here together is our last one. I'll just go over these for a second here. My playoff: Michigan, Oregon, Texas, Bama in that order. Mike's playoff: Georgia, Michigan, Oregon, FSU in that order. And our craziest playoff realistic possibility is not crazy at all, but I think everybody is like counting these teams out.
Yeah.
And so we're going to take Michigan instead of Georgia at one. We're going to take Washington and Florida State both winning and being undefeated. Those three teams are all 13-0. And then our fourth ranked team is going to somehow be Texas, sneaking in over Bama, even though Bama beat Georgia.
I think that this is a somewhat realistic scenario in that people are like, oh, there's no way they're leaving the SEC out if that happens. But I don't know. I feel like this will be a very rare scenario for the playoff before we expand, where they have to value that head to head. But you can't ignore that. You cannot ignore that in that situation.
Head to head on the road too.
I know, in Tuscaloosa. I mean, if that happens, if this scenario happens and Michigan, Washington, Florida State all win, Texas and Bama win, and they leave Texas out, like I think hindsight is 2020. Looking back on it, people are gonna be like, that is insane that they left them out.
Yeah.
Right now, it feels like people aren't talking about that.
No. And it kind of goes back to the shabby playoff rules committee. Like they've never really clearly defined like what their ranking system is. Like Bama beating Georgia obviously is a better win, and maybe their resume is better than Texas's. But like, how are you going to take Alabama over Texas when Texas literally beat them? It's not like a power rating, like, oh, Alabama's a better team than Texas. It's based off your record. So
it happened.
Yeah.
In a hostile environment.
Right.
Yeah,
Even though it was like week 4, week 3, but like you still have to value that somehow.
And they won by 10. It wasn't like a walk-off field goal or anything. It was they won.
It was a dominating. I think this is the worst possible case for the committee, but it would make me kind of happy to see them just absolutely have their heads in where if this is the case.
And I think that the last thing that I would really say about this is a season like this kind of shows how having a 12 team would be great. My one fear with that is if you have an off year where you don't have this many contenders, you would have a bunch of people in there who shouldn't. But it almost feels like in a year like this, they should be like, all right, we're going to let 12 in this year and we'll go back to the bread and butter next year. But hey, they made their bed. They got to lay in it.
Yeah, we won't get into that debate so much, but 12 is just too many, in my opinion. It always has been.
I think it should be less, but
all these games right now that we're talking about just would not matter. Like maybe the Florida State Louisville game for maybe. I don't know. It's tough, but it's what it is. There's no fighting it anymore. It's coming next year. But there you have it. Our playoff this year. Crazy predictions, normal predictions. You have it. Whatever.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments below. Give us y'all's playoff predictions. Let's see. Give us your crazy scenario. Show us how Ohio State makes it in at number 3. Show us how a 2-loss Iowa makes it in at number 4.
And we're hoping to have one more show for you at least come bowl season and playoff season. So this is not the end. We apologize for our absence last week, but Classic City Locks is alive and well.
Yeah, last year we were talking. We don't think we got out bowl season. We might have gotten one out, but didn't get a playoff one. We're not totally sure because we were in person together at our studio. But now we have the luxury of teleworking, so we will finish the season strong. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and stay tuned for a couple more videos to end out the year.
Over under 3.5 people still watching. If you take the over on that line, I will personally pay out $1 to one person that comments that. There you go. Have a nice night.